Tonight, Israeli forces intensifying strikes on southern Gaza. Preparing for another ground assault.
There is nowhere for them to go.
As Israel signals 1 million people to move. Rising food costs hard to stomach.
The prices in the grocery stores are just ridiculous.
Protesters head to the supermarket.
Stop the war on the poor!
Plus, a nod to a Canadian filmmaker's past, present, and future.
It is about extraordinary moments in an ordinary person's life.
A nuanced love story inspired by Celine Song's own life.
CTV National News with Heather Butts.
Good evening. Grief and despair grip southern Gaza tonight. Israel's prime minister has ordered the military to draw up plans to evacuate Rafah, a city packed with more than 1 million people, ahead of an expected ground incursion. CTV's Jeremy Sharon starts us off.
Rifling through this ruined building in Rafah, this is the aftermath of the latest strikes in southern Gaza that killed dozens of people, according to Palestinian health officials. My sister, her husband, and their children, including my 2-month-old niece, all gone, says Enes Amr. The Israeli military says it killed 2 Hamas operatives in Rafah, where it has warned a full-scale ground invasion is inevitable.
We are extremely worried about the fate of civilians in Rafah.
Benjamin Netanyahu has ordered his military to plan for the evacuation of what has become the most heavily populated region in the enclave.
We also do not want to see any forced displacement, forced mass displacement of people, which is by definition against their will.
More than 1 million people are believed to be in the area, the majority displaced from other parts of Gaza, according to the United Nations, the last major populated area not occupied by Israeli forces. The ground operation is looming, and they will do in Rafah like what they did in the north, says this Palestinian.
There is nowhere for them to go. 85% of Gazans have been displaced. Over 50% of Gaza is rubble.
The areas that we've cleared north of Rafah, plenty of areas there. We're not cavalier about this. This is part of our war effort to get civilians out of harm's way.
As Israel pushes forward with its plan to eliminate Hamas, the government is facing growing pressure to bring hostages home and find an end to the war.
We don't have any trust in Netanyahu's government.
Now tonight, Saudi Arabia has warned Israel of very serious repercussions for storming Rafah, renewing its demands for an immediate ceasefire. Heather?
Thanks, Jeremy. Russian drone strikes on Ukraine killed 7 people, including a mother and father and their 3 children. The bombs hit an oil depot in Ukraine's second biggest city, sparking a huge fire that burned down more than a dozen homes. We heard from the king today for the first time since his cancer diagnosis. Charles offered heartfelt thanks for the many messages of support and good wishes, saying such kind thoughts are the greatest comfort and encouragement. The 75-year-old monarch was recently diagnosed with an undisclosed form of cancer and has stepped away from many of his royal duties. Experts from Canada's Transportation Safety Board will take part in the investigation into a deadly plane crash in Florida because it involved a Canadian-manufactured Bombardier.
Oh my God, what the?
The private jet went down on a busy highway yesterday after both engines failed. The pilot and co-pilot were killed. 3 survivors fled the burning wreckage. A driver on the ground was hurt. 3 Winnipeg police officers were shot during a standoff this morning. The tactical unit responded to a call about a woman being held in an apartment against her will by people with guns. A suspect opened fire on the officers who suffered non-life-threatening injuries. 2 men are in custody. Food prices in Canada are impacting families from coast to coast. Today, one of the country's largest organizations, which advocates for low and moderate income people, took their calls directly to the doors of large grocers. CTV's Kamal Karmali reports.
Stop the war on the poor!
a fight against rising food prices. Taken directly to the grocer's front door. Letters addressed to the CEOs of some of Canada's biggest grocery chains and to members of Parliament.
People are just, trying to figure out whether they can pay rent or do groceries.
High food costs leaving many buying the bare minimum.
I can't buy certain fruits, certain vegetables because it is not in my budget. And so that's unfair to my child.
An advocacy group for low-income populations, Acorn Canada, held rallies outside grocery stores across the country, 9 cities in total.
I even have to go as far as buying a little less, buying very cheap, low-quality food, and then having to ration that over 2 weeks.
Over the past 5 years, some items like milk and eggs have gone up about $1 countrywide, but fruits seeing a big jump, a kilogram of grapes, $3 more. Some beef cuts nearly $11 more per kilogram, and infant formula almost $12 more.
We're struggling to put food on the table.
This comes as an NDP bill to lower grocery prices makes its way through Parliament. In December, the top execs of major grocery chains faced questions from MPs, battling accusations of making excessive profits as Ottawa considers a code of conduct.
The code of conduct would basically allow suppliers and grocers to have access to a more level playing field. Right now, basically, 2 companies are calling the shots.
But grocery giants argue it's global factors that are driving up prices, COVID, conflict, and climate change affecting inflation across the board. Heather.
All right, Kamal, thank you. The cost of doing business proved to be astronomical for a finance worker in Hong Kong who was duped into handing over millions of dollars after being tricked by deepfake technology during a conference call. It's the latest frightening example of how quickly artificial intelligence is progressing. CTV's Colton Prail has more.
An elaborate, first-of-its-kind scam straight out of science fiction. Police say thieves used artificial intelligence to create a phony video conference call with deep-fake colleagues to fool a financial worker in Hong Kong and steal $35 million.
This is real-time back and forth. This is an escalation of the technology that we've already come to fear. Now we have a reason to fear it even more.
And those fears are top of mind for 80% of Americans who said they're worried about deepfakes during the 2024 election, according to new polling.
And the challenge with this new technology is the content spreads so quickly. Even if you have good laws in place, it doesn't necessarily allow for fast action to get the content taken down.
From deepfake pornography of Taylor Swift to robocalls supposedly from the president telling Americans not to vote, the risks posed by the audio and video duping technology are quickly growing.
It means we all need to be careful to check the authenticity.
Even that warning from Joe Biden isn't real.
Verification used to be on a lot of platforms a video of a person with just a piece of paper saying, I am this person. However, with deepfake, I can create a video verification of you and I become you on that platform.
Legal experts say a combination of legislation and fast action from social media companies will be key to maintain voter trust as deepfakes ramp up during the election cycle in the U.S. and here at home.
Ottawa says they're worried about the role AI could play in future elections and are working to fix it, adding they plan to implement the online harms bill soon. But experts say 2 years after the original died on paper, it isn't soon enough. Heather.
All right, thanks, Colton. An explosion outside a Nova Scotia seniors' home sent one resident to hospital and the rest to hotels. The blast left a hole in the side of the building. Today, the fire chief said it was caused by heavy snow sliding off the roof onto a propane line. Cape Breton received a historic snowfall this week, up to 150 centimeters in some areas. Some people in the Maritimes are still digging out, while other parts of the country are seeing record-breaking warmth. The spring-like conditions posing serious problems for many businesses that rely on the winter cold. Here's CTV's Olivia O'Malley.
Birds are chirping, ice is melting, and even though it's only February 10th, some Montrealers have decided to break out the shorts.
It's 7 degrees, so might as well.
The unseasonably warm weather did not stop cross-country skiers on Mount Royal. Most of the trails, including the main one, are open.
I mean, it's nice, but also a bit freaky this year and definitely harder to ski.
Senior climatologist David Phillips says warm weather from out west has made its way east.
It just brought all of this southerly air right into Ontario and to Quebec. We saw could be a record today, very close to a record yesterday in Montreal.
The above average temperatures have put many winter sports on ice. Outdoor rinks across the city are closed.
Malheureusement, de fermer la montagne.
Montcastor and Matane closed its slopes for the day. The mountain does not have snow cannons, but hills that do are relying on them to stay afloat.
Right now, most of the base is man-made snow, for sure. I mean, we received maybe one snowstorm maybe a month ago.
Winter gear has been selling very, very slow.
Yves Muchaka says the mild winter is hurting his business. He hasn't sold a single snowshoe and adds sales are down 35 to 40%.
The store has been open for 28 years. This has been the slowest by far winter.
Muchaka and other winter lovers are still holding out for more snow. It is still February after all.
Well, I prefer the old-fashioned winters. You know, you were sure it was going to be cold.
Environment Canada says temperatures should drop again around midweek and more layers might be needed. Olivia O'Malley, CTV News, Montreal.
Millions of people across Asia and around the world are celebrating Lunar New Year. In Chinese tradition, each year is represented by one of a dozen animals. We're now in the Year of the Dragon. There were festivities here in Canada today. CTV's Caitlin Wilson reports from Ottawa's Chinatown.
Hi! Happy New Year! It's a day of celebration centered around the hope for good fortune and prosperity.
It's a great occasion for family members to reunite and celebrate the new year all together, giving out their best wishes to their families and relatives and friends.
Saturday marking the Lunar New Year, a rich tradition in many East Asian cultures. Kicking off 15 days of celebrations, and this year is all about the dragon.
It represents wisdom, strength, and good fortune. We have 12 zodiac animals in Chinese culture which come in a cycle of 12 years.
Heavily rooted in tradition, these red envelopes a gesture of well wishes for the coming year. But with the start of a new year comes a renewed sense of hope.
Today, because it's Chinese New Year and we know there is an event in Chinatown, so we did it in 11. And it was people rushing in,
Spending time with family and loved ones as the Year of the Dragon ushers in prosperity. Caitlin Wilson, CTV News.
Coming up, a Canadian contender at the Oscars.
There's a word in Korean.
A love story through her unique lens. Plus, a rare sea turtle rescued in BC. Excitement is building for the Oscars next month, and a Canadian filmmaker is hoping to come home with hardware following 2 nominations. Celine Song's debut feature, Past Lives, is a major hit with audiences and critics. Here's CTV's Jean-Pierre Bushman on the romantic drama based on a true story.
There's a word in Korean, 인연. It means providence.
In her extraordinary tale, Past Lives, about ordinary people, filmmaker Celine Song weaves the story of a love triangle of childhood dreams meeting present lives.
What a good story this is. Childhood sweethearts who reconnect 20 years later and realize they were meant for each other.
It's a semi-autobiographical debut feature based on Song's life.
This movie really is about an immigrant, right? Because the main character, Nora, is an immigrant myself. She's an immigrant woman like myself. And I think that when I moved to Canada as a kid, I would say that it was a very wonderful and a whatever was difficult about it was also a source of strength.
The only villains in the film, Song says, are the years and the ocean that separated the characters. And in this hit film, Toronto, where Song immigrated when she was 12 years old, plays an important role.
The relationship that the characters have to the city was so important that, you know, even if it's a Toronto Pearson Airport, I personally wanted it to feel like the way it feels. You know, I wanted Canada to feel, you know, just feel right, the way that I want New York to feel right, or Korea to feel right.
Nora is played by Greta Lee.
Oh my God.
I know.
Renowned for her roles in series like The Morning Show. And just like Nora in the movie, Song moved to New York to pursue her dreams. She's a writer, a playwright.
He was just this kid in my head for such a long time. I think I just missed him.
Did he miss you?
But the romantic drama has propelled her onto the worldwide stage.
Part of the reason I think that the audiences connect, and they connect globally, and it doesn't matter what language people speak, they all feel connected to it, which is that it is about extraordinary moments in an ordinary person's life.
But it's also about how we leave a piece of ourselves behind to people we once knew, to a time in our lives, and to a place. To Song, one of those places is Canada, and that was in her mind as she got news last month her film's Past Lives is up for 2 Oscars at the ceremony in March.
Like, I'm just the high school kid in Markham, you know, drinking Tim Hortons. So I mean, it's like asking anybody who is like that. It's like, did you know? And I'm like, well, no. Truth is that it's such an honor.
Geneviève Beauchemin, CTV News, Montreal.
There are no Canadians on the list, but plenty of big names among this year's nominees for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. 10 of the 15 nominees are on the ballot for the first time, including Cher. Also on the list are Mary J. Blige, Lenny Kravitz, Kool and the Gang, Ozzy Osbourne, and the late Sinead O'Connor. Inductees will be announced in late April. Still ahead. Losing a license, heading home after passing a driver's test. The countdown to kickoff is officially on, with Super Bowl Sunday now just hours away. There's much excitement about the game, where it's being held, and who will be there. TSN's James Duffy is in Las Vegas with a preview.
Thank you. This is the first Super Bowl ever in Las Vegas, a city that frankly was built for this game. And there's a chance it could be the most watched Super Bowl ever, because you have the Kansas City Chiefs, a team trying to win their 3rd Super Bowl in 5 years and cement a dynasty. On the other side, you have the San Francisco 49ers, a historic franchise trying to win their 6th Super Bowl, which would tie them for the most ever with Pittsburgh and New England. And oh yeah, you have the #1 entertainer in the world, Taylor Swift, who's doing a concert in Japan, then jumping on her jet and flying across the ocean so she can be there to watch her boyfriend, Travis Kelce, the tight end for the Chiefs. So yes, lots of eyes will be on Taylor, but most eyes will be on the 2 quarterbacks of this game. Patrick Mahomes is 26 years old. If he wins this, it's his 3rd Super Bowl victory. He'll be the youngest quarterback to win 3, 2 years younger than Tom Brady, the greatest of all time. On the other side, you have Brock Purdy, the last pick in the draft 2 years ago, Mr. Irrelevant. Guys who are picked last in the draft often don't even play in the NFL, let alone lead their team to the Super Bowl in their 2nd season. So if the Chiefs win, you'll get that embrace on the field, likely with Taylor and Travis with the confetti falling down. If the Niners win, you'll get Brock Purdy finishing off a Cinderella Disney movie script, and Taylor will have new material for a heartbreak song. Either way, a fascinating matchup here in Las Vegas.
All right, thank you, James. And you can watch the Super Bowl right here on CTV and TSN tomorrow. The pregame starts at 6 p.m. Eastern. Before we go to break, a young driver in a Toronto suburb had just passed his road test, but it was short-lived.
Okay, so sir, obviously I stopped you for speeding.
Like 10 minutes ago, I got my GS. I have a clean record.
Not today. That's crazy speed, man.
I figure I should get a retest because of this offense.
Police say an officer clocked him going 131 kilometers an hour in a 50 zone. His newly minted license was suspended and his dad's car was impounded. After the break, racing to a rescue. Strangers rally to save an endangered sea turtle in distress. Finally for us tonight, a remarkable mission off the coast of BC, rallying to rescue an endangered sea turtle in distress that was far from home. Here's CTV's Adam Sawatsky.
When Sean Hutchinson is boating, he usually avoids getting caught up in kelp beds, but this time he felt compelled to take a closer look.
I actually did a hard 90-degree turn, went over there for whatever reason.
Sean found garbage in the kelp and started cleaning up before making an unexpected discovery.
The head popped up and looked at us. Oh my God moment.
It was a sea turtle, which Sean knew was nowhere near native to the area.
It would kind of follow us a little bit, almost like asking for help, really.
Seeing as it was a Sunday night, contacting someone official proved to be a challenge. But then Sean remembered hearing about a friend of a friend whose wife was a marine zoologist, and they called Dr. Anna Hall.
I dropped everything. Sunday dinner was still sitting on the counter. I just left.
To see the sort of turtle you'd typically find in the warm waters around Mexico or Hawaii, so close to the frigid coast of BC.
It sort of looked like a creature that was moving toward the end of its life.
After getting the go-ahead from officials, Anna raced to orchestrate a rescue. They lifted the turtle out of the water and into the boat. Then volunteers and onlookers scrambled to borrow a wheelbarrow and secure cushions to create a carrier for the creature when it arrived back at the marina.
Sure enough, a wheelbarrow does fit in the back of my car with a large sea turtle in it.
Well, the turtle's only hope of survival was traveling to the Vancouver Aquarium, at least 5 hours away, all the while ensuring the creature stayed hydrated and cold.
So we're driving down the highway, windows down, sitting there spraying the sea turtle to keep it wet all the way to BC ferries.
Staff at the terminal stepped up to ensure the rescuers got on the first available ferry before the turtle was greeted on the mainland by a team from the Marine Mammal Rescue Center.
Just everybody was so happy that the turtle had made it to the people who know how to care for her.
Now named Moira, she's only the second loggerhead turtle ever found near BC. While experts can only speculate how the endangered creature made it so far from home, Anna says there's no doubt that countless people, like Sean, are responsible for Moira's survival.
People just came together to help a creature they had never seen before, probably are never going to see again, and with any luck, will be returned to its home waters one day because people cared.
Adam Sawatsky, CTV News, Metchosin.
A successful rescue. That's our show for this Saturday. I'm Heather Butts. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. Good night, and I'll see you again tomorrow.